Hello, everyone. I should probably introduce myself. I'm Robert Kieffer, and I'm here to. Thank you. And I'm here to talk about the fascinating subject of copyright. Eventually. So, copyright, the exclusive legal right given to the authors of literary, musical, or artistic work. It's a relatively modern phenomenon, if modern means 250 years or so to you. Prior to that time, prior to 250 years ago, issues of intellectual property were decided not so much in the courtroom with logic and reason, but actually on the battlefield with violence and bloodshed. And in fact, the first documented case of copyright law comes to us from Ireland in 560 AD, where two monks get into a debate over who owns a copy of a Bible that one of them is made from the others. And the owner of the original Bible says, hey, you made that copy from my book, therefore it belongs to me. To which the other one says, I don't think so. And so they end up going before their king, who proclaims to every cow her calf, to every book its copy, which doesn't settle anything. As a result, the two clans to which the monks belong meet on the battlefield, slaughter some 3,000 of their number, and the winner walks away with the Bible. And that's kind of how things work for the next 900 years. Basically, if you want a copy of something, you have to go to the scribe, you pay him 300 sheepskins, and 6 months later you get, well, whatever it is his bosses, i.e. the church and state, have allowed him to produce. So the powers that be control the dissemination of information. And that's how it works until Gutenberg invents the printing press. And that changes everything, because all of a sudden, lay people have the power to tell everybody what they're thinking. And a lot of what they're thinking is, you know those powers that be? They kind of suck. And this gets to be so much of a problem that in France, in 1546, they actually make publishing a capital offense. And they burn and hang simultaneously a guy named Etienne Dolet. And of course, all his publisher friends flee to the borders of France and turn around and immediately start inundating the country with more propaganda about how awful those powers that be are. This does not go unnoticed across the English Channel, where Queen Mary I is facing struggles of her own in her attempts to restore Catholicism as the state religion. She sees this and says, well, you know what? I'm going to go to the publishers here in London and say, hey guys, I want to give you a deal. I'll give you an exclusive monopoly on publishing through all of England, in exchange for which I want editorial control. Now, this creates the London Stationers Company, the first copyright monopoly, and it's so successful that it lasts for 150 years. Queen Mary only lasts for 5 years, but it's long enough that she can basically put 300 of her religious dissenters to death and gets known as Bloody Mary. So when you're toasting on those Sunday brunches, you're toasting to the queen of copyright. She invented the modern copyright monopoly. Now that lasts until the Statute of Queen Anne comes along and says, copyright belongs to authors, not publishers. It's enforced by the state, not by private parties. And it expires after a limited time of 28 years. This is such a profound idea that our founding fathers actually write that into our Constitution, which is something we can be very proud of as Americans. We're the first country to constitutionalize copyright. And our Constitution says, I hope, that Congress has the power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. In essence, what this means is that the purpose of copyright is really to promote the arts and sciences. And to that end, we give authors a right to an exclusive right to their works, but for a limited time, so that those works will eventually enter the public domain. Unfortunately, that limited time, which started as 28 years, is now over 100 years, due to the lobbying efforts, largely of the people that profit from copyrighted work, namely the publishers. And we see evidence of this in, for example, the Disney Corporation, which is lobbied to keep Mickey Mouse out of the public domain so successfully. And if you look at Mickey's age, it corresponds remarkably well to the term of copyright under which he's covered. And you'll notice that there's actually a lot of activity around there. And that's because Congress is voting on bills 10 to 20 times a year that affect copyright law. This law impacts every aspect of our lives. It affects the music we listen to, it affects the software that runs on our phone, and it affects the Girl Scouts who have to license Puff the Magic Dragon so they can sing it around their campfire. Yeah, the point being, this is a contemporary issue. These are the headlines from last week regarding copyright. There's a lot of stuff going on. And it's really up to us to decide what we believe is fair in terms of giving authors the right to monetize their work, but also to ensure that that work enters the public domain where we can all benefit from it. Thank you.